أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله رب العالمين وبه نستعين والصلاة والسلام على أشرف الأنبياء والمرسلين سيدنا ونبينا بالقاسم محمد وعلى إطرة الطيبين الطاهرين المعصومين اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد وجل فرجهم أما بعد السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته. Welcome to our new Back to Basics series, and this time we're looking at the fiqh rulings of Khums, and we are doing this in honor of the Holy Prophet, whose Shahada we will be commemorating in a few days' time, inshallah. The reason why I have chosen Khums to look at Khums is because the Khums is distributed in two portions. The first portion goes to Seme Imam, which is to Allah, the Prophet, and the Aima, and obviously the Hujjah of Allah on the earth at the moment is the Imam, so it would go to him, but because he's in occultation, it goes to the Marja, and we will look at this in a little bit more detail. But this part is used to propagate Islam, for the welfare of the Muslims, and so forth. The second part goes to the family of the Prophet, so the Hashemites. And this is anyone who is in the lineage, who comes from the lineage of Hashim, who was the grandfather of our Holy Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, and anyone who is an orphan from amongst them, needy from amongst them, or a wayfarer from amongst them. And again, we will look at this in a little bit more detail. But we realize that Khums is a haqq which is due on us to be given to the family of the Holy Prophet, and that's why it seems apt to look at the rulings of Khums in honor of the Holy Prophet, so that by the time we get to his Shahada, we have paid the haqq that is on us, the dues that is on us, that is the right of the family of the Prophet, inshallah. So let's get straight into it. As we all know, Khums is a wajib tax. It's an obligatory tax of 20%, which is 1/5, but it's not on our whole income. It is only on the surplus income. Surplus income means anything that is remaining at the end of the Khums year, and we'll look at what the Khums year means. But it's anything that is remaining, that is surplus to my needs, that I did not need, and therefore I would pay Khums on that. And it's from my earnings. Although Khums is obligatory on several things, we will be specifically looking at Khums from the surplus income from our earnings and gains. So what does earnings and gains mean? This is from our salaries and wages that we get, from earnings from business or from investments, from charity. So if I if I get sadaqah money or Khums or zakat, then anything that is extra surplus to my needs, I would pay Khums on. Any gifts that I may receive, again, if I do not use them within the year, if it is extra to my needs, then I would pay Khums on them. Any prizes and bonuses, again, the same ruling applies. If I do not use it within the Khums year, then I would pay Khums on it. Any unexpected inheritance. Here we're looking at inheritance according to Sharia, but which is from an unexpected source. So from maybe a distant relative, maybe a grand uncle or someone who I wasn't expecting or didn't even think about getting inheritance from. But it so happened that the heirs that were not there, and therefore then it came down to me when it comes, when the heirs are looked at. So it's an unexpected inheritance. The deductible expenses are things like, for example, food and drink, clothing, toys, books, apps. And this, again, as I said, it's as long as I'm using them, as long as they are according to my needs, according to my social status, then it is a deductible expense. Accommodation, and here we're looking at the mortgage, rent, bills, maintenance and repairs, decorative items for the house, anything like that. Furniture and appliances, car and transportation costs, holidays according to my social status, Hajj, Ziyarat expenses, medical expenses, insurance premiums, religious dues. So if I have kafara on me, fidya, if I have made another to give a certain amount of money, all of this comes under deductible expenses. Penalties that are due on me, pensions, taxes, memberships, so gym membership, Jamaat membership, and so forth, donations that I want to give, gifts that I want to give, provisions for guests that I've kept. Again, all of this has to be according to my social status. Marriage and educational expenses within that year. Here, Aga actually says that if it is the norm to save for marriage, and Ayatollah Sistani says it doesn't matter whether it's a boy or a girl, but if it's the norm to save, and I would come across or be deemed negligent or careless if I didn't, then I can save, and that would all be under Khums, under my deductible expenses, so would not have Khums on it. But again, it has to be according to my social status, according to what's considered as the norm in the society that I live in, and it needs to be for that specific thing as well. For repayment of debts and loans, and again, we will look at that in more detail. Khums is not liable on dowry, which is the mahar that a wife receives. It is not liable on any property a husband receives in exchange for a whole divorce. It is not liable on blood money, diya, that one receives. It is not liable on inheritance that one receives according to Sharia. So inheritance that I know that is coming to me from my parents, my husband, my children, and so forth. Even if it's from the 1/3 that they have a right to do with as they please. It is also not liable on financial loans, which we will discuss in more detail. When we look at inheritance, just a note here that if the person that has passed away was cared about and paid their Khums in their lifetime, then before the inheritance is given out, the Khums up to that date should be worked out and taken away from the estate before the inheritance is given out. So, for example, if the Khums date of that person was the 31st of December, and say they passed away on the 31st of July, then for that 7 months that they had not paid Khums, so then from the estate they would take out the Khums for the 7 months before the inheritance is given. And also, if that person did not care about or never paid Khums in their life, then there is no need to pay Khums for that person. And again, as I said, financial loans we will look at in more detail in the later series, in the later lectures, talks, inshallah. I hope this is introduced Khums in an easier way to you, and inshallah join me tomorrow where I will explain it in a little bit more detail. Wassalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.